Well, it's the weekend, and when the weekend comes, so does Michael Snyder. We don't mean that in any foul sense. Yeah, he's got the movie reviews. Hello, Michael.
Hi, Alex, and if you're listening to this over the weekend, a happy Labor Day to all. We've got a few film reviews for you. We should get to them. I do want to say that Searching, the very cool crime drama told entirely on computer screen and starring John Cho and Deborah Messing, opens wide this weekend, and you should jump in if you haven't already. Okay, what have we seen that we want to tell you about? Let's start with Operation Finale, which is a docudrama about the capture of Nazi war criminal Adolf Eichmann by agents of Mossad, the Israeli spy service, and Shin Bet, the Israeli security service, 15 years after the end of World War II, when Eichmann was hiding in plain sight under an assumed name and with a wife and two sons in Buenos Aires, Argentina. This is a solid, albeit now, it's not a groundbreaking situation here with this film, but it's still right in my wheelhouse. It's a story that needs to be told, that people need to know and understand as truth, and it's a horrific part of history that must never be forgotten or repeated. Yeah, the Holocaust happened to people. Anyway, I remained engaged throughout Operation Finale, even though I knew many of the details of the hunt for Eichmann and of his subsequent trial for crimes against humanity. I always kind of balk a little bit at dramatic license taken in films that combine characters, but only a little in this case. As is often the situation in historical dramas, the casting makes this work, as the lead actors, Ben Kingsley as Eichmann and Oscar Isaac as Peter Malkin, who was the Israeli agent at the forefront of finding, snaring, and interrogating this creep, bring the story alive. There's also the pleasure of supporting work by Melanie Laurent, who played the Jewish French girl in Inglourious Bastards, and here she's one of the Mossad unit's Argentinian members, and she's Malkin's ex-girlfriend. And I'll tell you, one of the most compelling and disturbing things about the film is the way Kingsley humanizes the demonic Nazi at the heart of so many monstrous acts of genocide. I mean, Holocaust deniers might like that, but it doesn't change the true horror and ugliness that this man helped to bring about. Solidly directed by Chris Weitz of About a Boy, and also one of the co-writers of Rogue One. This is the guy who got his humble beginnings as co-director of American Pie with his brother. This is definitely a more important film than that. I thought Operation Finale deserves people's attention. Moving on, The Little Stranger is a dramatic mix of mystery and horror, a ghost story of sorts, set in an English countryside of small towns and stately manor houses during the summer of 1948. The unsettling events of the movie are put into motion when a doctor named Faraday is called to visit this rundown manor and treat a maid, and then strange things begin to occur. Although the estate has seen better days, it's still home to the lady of the house and her two grown children, a daughter and a son, and our doctor has a connection to the family since his mother once worked for them, and that connection binds him to the people who live in the manor and to what starts to transpire there in a series of increasingly disturbing events. The movie has the benefit of 4 top actors in the significant roles, starting with the doctor being played by Donald Gleason, who you may remember recently as General Hux of Star Wars, as the unfortunate tech employee in Ex Machina, and so on and so forth. He's the son of the great Irish actor Brendan Gleeson, and talented. Caroline, the daughter of the manor, who catches the doctor's eye, is played by Ruth Wilson of The Affair and Luther. She's great. Caroline's brother Rod is played by the ever unsettling Will Poulter, and their distracted and long-suffering mom is played by none other than Charlotte Rampling. The Little Stranger, directed in sure-handed fashion by Lenny Abramson, held my attention throughout, had a decent creep factor, a little perplexing in a few places, particularly regarding the limited supernatural rules versus any unseen realities of the situation, but well-crafted on the visual end and well-acted with a palpable sense of dread. Speaking of dread, I love a good crime thriller, especially one with betrayals and bullets flying, and I especially love it when the French do this sort of movie. Let the Corpses Tan filled the bill for me. It's a tale of highway robbery, wherein a gang of crooks ambush a truck on a coastal road in the south of France in order to grab a cache of gold bars, and then they retreat to some ruins on a nearby hill where some willfully weird artist woman and her acolytes particularly a dissolute writer who thinks of her as his muse, all live together. Like the thugs may not be as safe and secluded there as they think, when a young woman and another young woman and a kid show up looking for the kid's father, who is the writer. I mean, the cops have to be pretty much on their tail at this point. The question is whether these self-serving ne'er-do-wells are going to avoid offing one another and absconding with the bullion. A firefight, it's kind of inevitable, and blood is spilled. It's very Tarantino style. It's like a 70s shoot-'em-up, kill-sploitation thing. And there's a little French New Wave and glorious cinematography of the Mediterranean shoreside. To be fair, I thought British director Ben Wheatley's 2016 Thieves and Killers shoot-'em-up Free Fire was less arty and sharper and funnier, but Let the Corpses Tan looks great, delivers the ultra-violence, and, of course, also delivers that old lesson, crime can pay, but not for everyone. Let's wrap it up here at the very end with Blaze, a loving and rambling homage to the late Blake Foley, a relatively unheralded singer-songwriter in the Texas outlaw country music scene, whose songs were embraced and sometimes co-written by his friend and colleague Townes Van Zandt. The movie was directed by the Ethan Hawke, the actor Ethan Hawke, co-authored by Hawke and Foley's significant other Sybil Rosen, who's played in the movie by Aliyah Shawkat. Foley is given life here by a relatively unknown performer, Benjamin Dickey, who nails all shades of this troubled but caring and talented man. Musician Charlie Sexton is quite good as Van Zandt, and it's Van Zandt's interview recollections of his relationship with Foley that serve as the narrative spine of the movie. There are a few other familiar faces, including the real Chris Christopherson, so there's that. And Blaze darts between these recreations of Foley's personal and career ups and downs, his loving times with Rosen, and the circumstances of his final night on the planet, which begins with a recording session in a roadhouse and ends in tragedy. Like the pieces of the movie come together, and it kind of feels like you're actually hanging out with these likable, creative people, and that's pretty wonderful on Hawke's part, and a credit to the cast. When it was over, I was truly glad to have gotten to know Blaze Foley. What have you been up to? What are you watching, pal?
Nothing. There's nothing.
Anything on the TV? You're waiting for something to come on TV?
No.
Okay.
You know, the only thing I have to report, and I told that to my audience the other night, is Orson Welles' final film is finally going to be released in its new edited form. And that will be on Netflix on November 2nd. So.
Wow, I think there's also maybe going to be a small theatrical thing in New York or LA or something, but yeah, Netflix, that sounds, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And okay. So I guess if I just can find the theme here, we can bring it up and you can wind the whole thing up.
All right, well, you can check me out on Twitter at Culture Blaster and on Facebook, where you can hear Alex and myself at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page. And next week, hopefully, we'll have more new films as the fall season begins.
And if you're listening to our 24/7 feed, there's more GABNet coming up right now, and you can always hear Michael's reports on the weekend on our on-demand section of GABNet.net. Stay where you are.